Hello everyone. The sun is like crazy, but so I am back with another video about my life. So in my last video, I kind of had like just really unedited, like not genuine, candid talk about my drug abuse that was a big part of my life, I guess. And in that video, I did mention that it saved me from getting roofied, which I'm really glad about because usually nothing good comes from doing something bad or self-destructive, I suppose. But I always tell people, like, I'm really grateful that I am a drug abuser. Not only for the wonderful experience that it was, but not really, but I mean, it's something that I did in life. I can talk about it. Haha, great, funny. What an experience. And honestly, it wasn't like when people like talk about like bad experience, they're like, oh, this is so awful. But it was like okay, like it wasn't like devastating or anything. But I do always tell people I'm really thankful that I was a drug abuser and that it saved me because it did. Please refer to my drug abuse video, but I was a drug abuser. And I started going out to clubs and stuff because shortly after I moved out of my parents' house is when I started to abuse drugs. So I was living on my own, no one could control me, and I started dating someone who was a big part of New York City nightlife. And also RuPaul's Drag Race was gaining like traction because it was like a whole new show and it was like drag queens and no one's ever seen them before anyway. So I decided to start going out because I finally moved out of my parents' house and I could do whatever I wanted. So I would go out pretty much every single day because I was also unemployed at this time, and I went to a lot of the same clubs over and over again, and I would go with the same friends, and it was fun. It was a good time. I liked it a lot. I think everybody should go out in their 20s before they get like too old. But one day in this club, I have a photo of it, but I'm not going to post it because because the guy who gave me the drink's face is in it, and I should probably blast him, but I don't want to. But anyway, so me and my friends were hanging out at the club, and then there's like some fucking old guy smoking a cigarette like nearby, like on the dance floor. And of course, me not being able to mind my own business, I go, hey man, you can't smoke in here. And the guy was like, this is my club, I can do whatever I want. And I was like, oh, excuse me. And so he's like, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. What's your name? Let me get you a drink. And I was like, okay. So I follow him to the bar, and then he goes to the bartender, and he gets the bartender to like pour from like a bottom shelf. It was like in an unlabeled like dark blue bottle with like a cork in it. It looked like one of those like freaking like vases that you put a flower in that you get at Home Goods or like Bed Bath & Beyond or something. Like, it did not look like a liquor bottle. It just looked like one of those crappy bottles you get at like freaking Michael's to put shit in for decoration on your dining room table. And so I was like, okay, but what about all my friends? And he was like, okay, fine. And so what he poured, like, I don't even know because there's no label on the bottle, but I figured that I could take it because he was giving it to not only me, but all of my friends. And I just remember this liquid being like really dark, like it was like black and really like syrupy. It was thick. It was kind of like maple syrup consistency. And he only poured me like this much. Like, all of us had like plastic cups that were see-through, and he poured me like this much. And I grab all my friends. So first mistake was me leaving the bar and then getting them and coming back. So I grab all of my friends. It was only a couple of us. And they're like, oh man, free drinks, yay. So he was like, cheers, everyone. Cheers. We drink it. And it was just like, bleh, it was so disgusting. And then after that, so I have to mention, just in case you've forgotten, that this was the time that I was abusing benzodiazepines hardcore. So I was like popping them like they were like Skittles or something. So I was already like messed up. I was already drinking, and I had whatever this man gave me. Me and my friends drink it, and we're all just like talking and chatting for a couple of minutes. Being like, oh, it's a party. And so this old guy like grabs my arm like this, or like this, because he's facing the other direction. And he starts pulling me, and I'm like, where are we going? And he's just like, it's a secret. And I was just like, okay, but where are we going? And he's just like, we're gonna do some naughty. And I was like, no, we're not. And he's like, yes, you are. You're coming with me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And my friend was like, no, she has to stay with us. And so, and by this time, I like look around, and none of my friends, like in that short like time, like none of my friends were like with me anymore. I guess they like went back to like their corner of the club. And so here I am, me and this fucking old guy being like, you're coming with me. No, I'm not. Coming with me. No, I'm not. Coming with me. No, I'm not. And finally, one of my friends comes, and she was like, she has to come with us. And I was like, all right. And the fucking old guy finally left me alone. So I went back to my friends, and they're all laying down. Like, they're like slumped over the couch, and like my friend's like laying on the couch like this, and they were like, hey, I don't feel good. We have to go home. And I was like, what are you talking about? We just got here. Like, the club opens at 10, right? It was probably like 11:30, midnight when we went by this time. And they were like, feel really sick. Like, I'm just done. Like, I can't stay here anymore. Like, we have to go. So we actually like leave the club, and funnily enough, on the way out the door, I see the old man like this on some like other girl, and the other girl is just like, and I like look at her, and I just kind of, I'm like, all right, I guess she wants to suck his dick or something, like gross. And then we go home. So usually we would all part ways, and we would all go to our respective houses, but like everybody, so there were like 5 of us total, so it was 4 of us and me. So we would all usually just go home, be like, oh, it was a great night the day after, but nobody could go home, and I was the only one who was okay. And so we all ended up going to the person whose house was the closest, and we took a cab, which never happens, because he lived in walking distance. And so we took a cab, didn't even like go out to eat or anything, which was something that we would do. Everybody got to his house, and everybody like laid down on the floor, and they were just like, I feel terrible, like I feel so sick, like I don't know what's going on. And I was just kind of like, come on guys, like what? And you know, like eventually we ended up like dicking around, and we were like joking around and having fun, as we were all like laying around in his room. But I don't know, I like didn't know what was going on. And so the next day we had plans to go to brunch. I was the first one up, And I was like, come on guys, we're gonna go to brunch. It's gonna be awesome. Sunday morning, we're gonna have alcoholic brunch, and we're gonna, like, you know, it's gonna be like party part 2, woo! And nobody could get up. Everyone got up and they felt so disgusting. And they were like, I need Gatorade. I need electrolytes. And I was like, what is wrong with all of you? And so we go to the brunch place and they were all like, I can't do this. Like, I feel so terrible. The lights are too bright. Like, the music is too loud. Can we please go somewhere else? And I was really looking forward to brunch too. Damn it. So we ended up going to like the restaurant that was like next to the brunch place. And everybody ate a very, very silent brunch. And then everybody went home. And no one was really like happy that it was all like, okay, bye. You know, it wasn't like, all right, bye, like, see you again. You know, it was fun. Everybody was really down and like out of it. And I don't know, I was just like, what's wrong with these losers? Like, I didn't know. And so that was the end of our weekend. And I just kind of like went on with my life, and that was the end of that. But when we found out that something was amiss was a couple weeks later when we were all talking about the incident. And by we all, I mean only a few of us on a group like text or something. I was like, oh, you know, it was really funny that like it happened, and it was kind of like you guys all got roofied. And then when I said that, I was like, oh my God. I was just like, we fucking got roofied. Like, are you being serious right now? Like, that's the only reason. Like, and all the pieces like fell into place. We got there. We weren't really drinking because it was just so early. We had like a couple of like Red Bull vodkas or cranberry vodkas. We were so used to staying out all night. We would be in the club from open to close, and it was like 11:30, 12, and they all wanted to go home. They felt really sick. They were so out of it. The next day they woke up and they were still messed up. And it was like the worst time of everybody's lives. And I coincidentally was fine. And I attribute that to the fact that like I was already on such high doses of drugs that like whatever was in the liquid that I drank did not affect me as did them. I'm not gonna say it didn't affect me at all. I definitely felt like really, really groggy and tired. But then that was also like my normal. So I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. This is my life. And so we were like, shit. And then I thought about that girl who was getting dragged by the old man to like his private offices or something. And I'm like, fuck, like what happened to her? Like I should have like said something or done something about it. But like at the time I didn't know. Like I didn't know that that's what was happening to me, or that was what was happening, or what happened to my friends, because like we didn't know until like literally like weeks later where we were like, ha ha, roofie. And then we were just like, shit. So yeah, hindsight's 20/20, I guess. But man, I feel really terrible about that girl that got dragged into it, because like she didn't know, and honestly like that could have been me. And I'm not gonna say that that should have been me, because I wouldn't want that to happen to me, but like it shouldn't have been me and it shouldn't have been her. But if it wasn't gonna be me or her, like I know it would have been someone else, and that guy wouldn't have stopped until like he like roped someone in to do that with him. And yeah, so we still talk about it sometimes when people remember. It's like, haha, remember that time I got roofied? Yeah. And you know, it's funny now in the future, but at the time it was just like weird, and like nobody, like I didn't know what was going on, and everybody else like just thought it was some like freak, like weird thing that everybody's decided to feel terrible at the same time. I don't know, man. But yeah, so that's why I'm actually really, really glad that I did abuse drugs, because had I not had the built up tolerance from everything else that I was taking, I know that would have been me. You know, and like thankfully one of my friends who is like bigger in stature was there too, and it didn't really affect her either. She said she felt like really tired as well. But she and I were not like as terribly sick feeling as everybody else was. And so we had that in common to lean on each other for. But yeah, so like had I been by myself, had I not abused drugs, had I not had that tolerance to like whatever I had tolerance to, that would have been me. And that would have been very bad. And honestly, a couple weeks later, the club closed. So I don't know exactly what happened, but I saw like, not in the news, but in like the local like nightlife, like website publication thing, they're just like, this club is now closed, like it's been open for this long and it had to shut its doors. And I'm just like, it's probably because that guy's a rapist. But yeah, so that club is now closed. I no longer go out and I no longer abuse drugs. But you know what? I'm really glad that I did when I did, because it just so happened that everything worked out the way that it did. And I did dodge a giant bullet. Because, you know, that could have just ended badly for me and could have added to my already long laundry list of PTSD triggers and bad life experiences, but it didn't, and it's just something that like people laugh about now and we think of fondly, and especially me, because that would have been really, really terrible. But it ended well. And that's all I can really ask for. So that's pretty much why I'm kind of like really glad that I did do the things that I did. That, not that drug abuse is good, but it really saved me and got me out of a bad situation that otherwise would have been way, 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 way worse. So thank you, past self, for being a drug abuser. But yeah, that's pretty much the story. So, all right. Well, thanks for listening.